The more high-pitched you go.
No.
See, when it's like a soft high pitch, the screech is safe. But when it's then it's like, what did I do now?
No!
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Julian Pensavalle.
Patrick Hines.
You guys, just a couple of things before we get to the episode.
Okay.
Our Pride show is more than half sold out. Almost all of the orchestra seats are gone. If you're coming to the Pride show, get your tickets.
I love how at our Pride show, it's just theater terms for our orchestra seats.
Yeah.
I love the theater terms just thrown about.
You guys, we've hired our drag queens. It's getting crazy. It's going to be the most amazing show. As everybody knows, I'm doing the Pride tours in the morning.
Yep.
We're going to figure out who wants to come on those tours with me. So get your tickets to that. Our Patreon.
Our Patreon is out of control, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's really crazy, you guys. For episode-by-episode coverage of Serial, The Staircase, Making a Murderer, The Jinx, all of our interviews with Rabia Chaudhry, Asia McClain,
Madonna's Truth or Dare.
the director of Abducted in Plain Sight.
Yes, and the director of Tower.
Keith Maitland, girl.
Yes.
Yeah. $5 a month, you get a bonus episode a week, plus the entire back catalog. For $10 a month, you get all of that, plus ad-free versions of these episodes.
Yeah, starting from Ted Bundy
That's
on, right?
Lastly, you guys, we haven't asked for this in a couple weeks. If you wouldn't mind taking a second and reviewing us 5 stars on iTunes, let the world know what you like about our unique, weird, quirky little podcast. That's important. It's important that you take a second to actually write something out. Let the world know what makes us different and special.
Yeah, as someone who likes to know what I'm walking into.
Totally.
People need to know what they're walking into with us.
But in order for people to know that this podcast is fabulous and fun, we need you to write a little something in your review. And we will thank you for it.
Absolutely, we will. And
we love
eternally grateful. Our hearts will grow 3 sizes for every single review we get.
100%. So here we are, girl.
I know.
Last episode of HBO's The Case Against Adnan Syed.
It's called Time is the Killer.
I know. I'm going to miss covering this series. I love it.
I am, but it really, wow, emotional. It's hard to cover.
Yeah, it is.
As everything is. But.
This one in particular, it was rough.
When you are working on a case that you think is a wrongful conviction, you're only on one side, and that side is getting to the truth.
The day she went missing was just a normal day to me.
It never hit me that something could be wrong until they found her body.
The suspect is Adnan Syed.
그 아이를 죄를 주는 것밖에는 바라는 게 없습니다.
It felt like they gotta have the wrong guy. If he did what he did, then who's the person that I saw every day in class?
For years, I've been saying to Adnan, we should go to media, we should go to journalists, because they can do things we can't do. But nobody realized it's going to turn into anything big.
Adnan Syed's story has captivated millions since the launch of the podcast Serial.
Serial is what brought new evidence to the case, but Serial was not going to exonerate him.
Now, 18 years after he was sent to prison, convicted murderer Adnan Syed heads back to court as questions about his case continue to surface.
As investigators, we go beyond what law enforcement has already done.
Failure to investigate more thoroughly is a major mistake.
I never thought about him over all these years.
This was a person that had a life. This is an interesting case, but it's people's lives.
I know there are things that don't look good for me.
I'm telling you, that's what happened.
How could anybody think that he's being straight about this?
That doesn't make him a killer. Makes him an unusual person.
This is perhaps the critical piece to this case.
They were going to follow that wherever it took them.
This is a piece of evidence that nobody even realized existed.
I want you to look into my eyes and tell me of your innocence.
Girl, get us started.
All right. Well, we start on June 30th, 2016, when Adnan gets a new trial, which is extra heartbreaking because of where we are now and the news that came out earlier in the month.
Can't we just enjoy the world of 2016 for 1 minute?
Nope. No, we can't. No, we most certainly can't.
So we're at Rabia's house. First of all, every exterior shot of Rabia's house, I'm like, that house is gorgeous.
It's pristine inside and out.
It is pristine. So it's the day of the appearance at like the Court of Special Appeals, right? And everyone's getting like sort of ready at Rabia's house. And what the filmmakers really want us to know is that in the United States of America, at the same time as all this was happening in Adnan's case, it was a
political firestorm.
Yeah, it was a political firestorm. Like, they're watching the James Comey hearing.
Yeah, because now we're in June 2017.
Right.
So a lot of craziness is happening and still is.
Yeah.
Ooh, can't wait for that to be over. My goodness.
This presidency is sucking the oxygen out of a lot of news stories. I mean, even my attention's diverted because of what's happening in Washington, D.C.
There are a lot of other things going on in the world. Hello.
Yeah, like this poor not guilty guy is trying to get out of jail.
Yeah, one of many,
Right.
might I add. I hate everybody.
And now we're at Justin Brown's house.
Yeah.
Guys, lanky, gorgeous, tall drink of water. Justin Brown, girl, you look good.
Yeah, he looks great.
Today we have oral arguments in the Syed appeal. There's more that can be lost than can be gained right now. We're defending the opinion of Judge Welch in the circuit court.
We flip-flop back and forth in this episode between, like, the defense, Adnan, like, being in a good position and being in a precarious position.
Yeah.
They're in a precarious position now.
Precarious position. That's my drag name. Not rehearsed. I literally just found it. My brain didn't know where it was going, and I was like, oh, that's my drag name. I got it. Nailed it.
I saw you working that out, girl.
I didn't know where it was going because I wanted to do the bit about, like, precarious position, say that 3 times fast. But then once I got it out the first time, I was like, I'm stealing that drag name bit. I did it.
So here's the thing, you guys. Justin is in the car. In all of these documentaries, there's a lot of, like, people being filmed while driving. It makes me nervous.
I know.
I don't want people on their phones. I don't want them being filmed. Focus on the road, please.
Right.
So here's the thing. Justin is explaining what the state's case is here.
Mhm.
2 things. Let's start with B, and then we'll go back to A.
Okay.
So he says that, like, Asia's not important, basically.
Right.
Asia McClain, the alibi witness, is not important. That's A. The thing that he said that made me literally stop watching and call you and be like, we need to talk about this for 5 hours was...
They're basically saying that we did not have a right to present our winning issue, the cell tower issue, in the court, that the court should have never even heard that in the first place. And that's a really technical argument.
And so they don't get into this in the episode. We had to group text Rabia.
I know. Well, who's in London right now doing, like, the premiere of this show in London?
I know. She still got back to us, and the technicality here is that Adnan apparently waived his right to re-examine the cell phone evidence.
Right.
Under Christina Gutierrez.
Right.
Which is how they matched Adnan to, like, Leakin Park burying the body. And so Justin wasn't even involved in that. And what made me insane about this is that everybody can look at this and say, based on this evidence, the state's theory of the case could not have happened. There's no way Adnan could have been convicted on this. But because of a literal paperwork technicality, it's not going to count.
Yeah.
And that's what the state is arguing, you guys. Guess what? The state eventually wins on this. And this is the thing that I called you almost in tears. How is it possible that a person can be in jail when we have actual evidence that the thing that convicted him is wrong? Right. But because of a technicality, he's rotting in jail. I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah, it's all, and girl, we're 4 minutes into the episode.
I know.
It gets so much worse.
I know.
It's horrible. But it does make you feel crazy when you're like, whoa, wait a second.
It just doesn't make sense. That this guy, Thira Vigneраja, would rather an innocent man be in jail than have to, like, let him out and reinvestigate the case and find out who really did it.
Right.
Oh, the hits just keep on coming. We're back at Rabia's house.
Uh-huh.
This is literally the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
They're about to leave for this circuit state of appeals thing in like 10 minutes.
Right.
And Rabia and Shamim are sitting on the couch.
Shamim is Adnan's mom.
Right. And she's feeling really emotional. And Rabia's just like, I know, but it's going to be great. And Justin's great. And Rabia thinks she's emotional about what they're leaving for in 10 minutes, which would be valid.
Right. Yes.
Which would be totally right. And then Shamim, like, starts to break down, and Rabia instantly knows, well, no, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, something else is wrong. It's something else.
Yeah.
And Shamim says that 3 months ago, she found out that she has leukemia.
And Rabia loses her shit.
She goes, what? And then she goes, can we go in the other room? Can we stop this? Like,
Yeah.
she immediately just wants to deal with it in the most human way and just like, fuck the cameras. It's
Right.
not about that right now.
Yeah.
And it was, Mike and I, we gasped, cried. Like, it was a hit in the gut for sure.
Good news, it's stage 1. Like, they
Yes.
caught it really early. I mean, it was just like, oh my God.
Right. And at this point in the documentary, Robbie is the only person who really knows. Like, Adnan doesn't know.
Shamim's husband knows.
Yes.
But he's the only person who knows.
Right.
And then, okay, fine. A moment of, like, levity and goodness. So we're walking into the court, right? This has all been leading up to, like, oral arguments in this case.
Yes.
Queen Amy Berg bum rushes Thira Vigneраja in the parking lot of the courthouse.
Hi, we're working on a documentary about the case. We haven't been able to get any access to you. Can you tell us, like, why you're continuing to fight the case?
Forgive me.
You can't answer that question?
I just want to make sure we get over to court.
Well,
Forgive
there's just
me.
all this new evidence that shows that there are questions about the validity of the conviction. Can you just tell us why you're fighting so hard against this case getting a new trial?
If I can again, because this is a pending matter, we're going to decline to comment at this point. Thank you so much.
Is it a personal issue for you?
Thank you so much.
He wants to come off as like this really polite, like, why are you attacking me?
Right.
He comes off as the biggest dick.
He totally
All
does.
he does is he just repeats, forgive me.
I honestly felt like he wanted to say to her, like, loved West of Memphis girl. Like, I feel like he's like a fan. And
Well,
like,
he should be.
Right. That wants to talk to her.
Well, not about this.
No, not about this.
Not about the bad stuff that he's doing.
Exactly. The best part is when she says to him, is this personal?
And he's like, forgive me, forgive me,
I
forgive
know.
me. I simply must be going.
Yeah.
Well, we all have to go into that courtroom. Why do you think we're here?
I know. Amy Berg. I love it. And then Rabia says, like, I don't know what's motivating him.
What I've heard about him is that he is very driven, that he doesn't like to lose, and he lost. I mean, he lost the PCR hearing, one of the biggest PCR hearings ever that had the attention of the entire country, and he lost it. So it could just be that, but I don't know.
Listen, I have had so many off-the-record conversations with Rabia about Thero Vignoraja.
Oh, yeah.
But Rabia says it all out. Like, Rabia tweets swear words at him.
Those tweets, whenever she does it, I'm just like, Mike, get over here. And I like read it to him, and he's like, that's amazing.
She's always like, Thero Vignoraja is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, asshole. Next. Like, she's got no time.
This is Rabia.
I know.
It's my favorite. Rabia does not mince words.
Rabia, I hope you still like us.
Imagine if she didn't.
I just always think one day I'm going to wake up and that's going to be the day that Rabia changed her mind about me.
Like, for no reason.
Well, no, she has reasons, and her reasons are totally valid, I'm sure. But one day she's going to be like, Jillian's canceled, I decided. And she'd be right, and I'd have to deal with it.
The next week, it would be like, Rabia Chaudhry.
Patrick. And I'd just be sobbing somewhere. That would be horrible. That would be a nightmare. I can't even talk about it anymore.
So the court hearing happens. They each get 30 minutes to, like, make their arguments. Adnan's not there.
Yeah, and then we wait, like always.
Yeah, and they just come out, and we see that there's, like, no timeline for when the judges will make their decision.
Yeah. Fun.
So we're back at home with Rabia. She's making more tea on the stove.
Uh-huh.
Rabia's, like, talking about, like, in the fantasy world of, like, if this goes back to trial, like, what would the state's case even be?
Right.
And she's like, they have no incentive to bring Jay back.
What is Jay Wells going to bring to the table now? Jay would not just be subpoenaed. I mean, he would be impeached through his own criminal records and prior statements and all those things.
Then, you guys.
The on-screen text appears.
You guys, this is bonkers.
The double take I did was like a cartoon. I'm like, they got what? So, a statement from Jay.
Yeah, so they say that they made, after multiple attempts to get Jay to, like, sit down for an interview, he agrees to, like, make a statement.
Finally, after all this time, learned a lesson that when you're recorded, they can play it back and rip it apart.
Right, exactly. So the first thing he says
and this is in January 2019.
Yes, this is
very
like yesterday,
recent. Yeah,
right.
very recent.
So Jay says to them, this is all in on-screen text. We're just going to tell you what they said, and we're going to do a lot of screaming. So remember, the statement that he made to the police is his official statement.
Right, which is also different from his statement in trial, but whatever.
Yeah,
we're not
exactly.
talking about that right now.
So Jay maintained that on the day of the murder, he borrowed Adnan's car to get a gift for Stephanie.
For her birthday.
For her birthday.
But then he contradicts his statements and says that he tried to return Adnan's car at school but couldn't find him and then left. So in 2019, he's like, oh, wait, actually, here's what happened.
Because if you remember, like, from Serial, from everything, Jay's, like, original statement is that he was supposed to meet Adnan at Best Buy, which is where the trunk pop happened.
So today, right now, or in 2019, or whatever it is, January, Jay's like, oh, you know what? The trunk pop, it was not in Best Buy. It was actually in front of my home.
Which Nikisha showed us.
Yes, exactly. The big thing is that he's like, oh, that whole Best Buy thing, that came from the cops. That was their idea.
That was the cops' idea. So Jay is now admitting to the filmmakers that the cops are feeding him a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where the story goes off the rails.
Yeah.
And I had to give a lot of stuff a lot of googs.
Okay.
So he then
What did you learn, sweetheart?
Let's paint a picture.
Okay.
They're standing in front of Jay's house.
Mm-hmm.
They've popped the trunk. Jay has seen Hae's body. Then Jay's telling to the filmmakers now in 2019, Adnan now says to Jay, you need to go get 10 pounds of marijuana.
Right.
10 pounds of marijuana.
Right.
Goog number one.
Okay.
What does 10 pounds of marijuana look like? I was imagining like big bricks, like hay bales, like 10 of those. The Goog image that I saw was like bags, but it was 10 pounds divided up into pound bags. And it has like a net worth of like tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
That's insane.
Yes.
But apparently, Jay procures that on the spot.
Right. He's like, 10 pounds? Yeah, I think I can make that happen. When do you need it by? End of day? Like, okay. Like,
right.
So then once he gets this 10 pounds of weed, like from his back pocket, seemingly, according to Jay in 2019, Adnan's like, cool, I'm going to turn you in for all of that if you don't help me get rid of this dead body that I've been apparently standing next to on your front lawn while you get the 10 pounds of weed.
I'm so glad that you saw that the same way, because you have to remember that Hae is killed, the trunk pop happens, and the burial all happens the same day.
Also in broad daylight? I don't know, but like...
So we're to believe that Adnan is standing in front of Jay's house, trunk open, dead body in there, while Jay goes out and gets 10 pounds of marijuana.
And then comes back, like, sauntering down the street 10 minutes later?
Right! Also, what happened to the 10 pounds of marijuana?
Right. It makes absolutely no sense. Although, if anyone in the story either could get 10 pounds of marijuana or, like, knows a guy who knows a guy who could, it's Jay.
I guess so.
Let's get real.
10 pounds is a lot of pot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. It's a lot of pot to get between 2:30 when Hae was apparently murdered and 7:30 when they apparently buried the body. 5 hours.
Right. And that timeline is about to get ripped apart, too. But, like, it's just, timeline aside, the story itself makes no sense.
I get that it's Baltimore, and I hear that Baltimore can be a dangerous place.
It sure could.
The kind of place where maybe you can get 10 pounds of weed in an hour.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think that that's what happened. Again, 10 pounds of weed!
It's ridiculous. I feel like I would love, like, the audio, if they have it, of Amy Berg and Rabia just, like, like, trying to hold back laughter, like, sure, Jay. Sure.
So, okay, we're back with the PIs. Remember how they were at the place where Hae's car was found, and the turf expert, like, dug up the turf and was like, I'm going to take it back to the lab and see the conditions for 6 weeks, which is how long the car was there.
Right.
And see if we can replicate the conditions under the car.
I also love Amy Berg. We're talking about 10 pounds of weed, and then it's just, like, a shot of a greenhouse. I was like, is this where Jay gets the weed? Oh, wait, it's different kind of grass. I see you, Amy. Different kind of grass. Got it. Look, I have a lot to say and also nothing to say about this segment.
Me too, because the whole thing is, like, this whole big, like, moment of, like, we're going to see if, like, this experiment works. You guys, the experiment didn't work. He opens a refrigerator. I swear to God, in my vision of it, there's, like, a pint of ice cream on one side and, like...
a six-pack with 2 beers in it.
Right, totally.
I did a simulation of how long would it take for the grass to go from a vibrant green to all the way dead.
So what does that experiment tell you about this photo?
My experiments weren't conclusive in terms of the length of time.
I'm sorry, but all of a sudden this turf expert is just like a total derp to me.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, well, you know, I did everything and it's inconclusive, but...
Right.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Let me use my eyes and look at this picture and tell you what I see.
Which is the same thing we've all been screaming about the whole time. He's basically like, in the tires, there's a lot of grass in it, and it seems like, according to the weather, according to, like, the almanac, there was, like, a lot of storm, which we know, actually. There was a lot of snow and a lot of rain.
With the rainfall that occurred over those 46 days and the freezing and thawing, I'm very surprised that there's still that much detritus left on those tires, because as you get large rainstorms, it would slowly wash this away. The detritus looks fresh. The path of where the tires picked up the detritus is still fresh. This could have been parked there the day before. Could have been parked there a week ago.
Can we talk for one more second about how, like, what a bummer of a segment with this, like, turf
100%.
expert?
I thought this was going to be the thing. They made such a big deal out of it in earlier episodes where I was like, does it all come down to a blade of grass? That would be...
And a turf expert?
And a turf expert, I presume. Whatever they called him, like Dr. Eric, I presume. And then it came down to nothing.
It didn't work. It came down to a picture that we've all been screaming about, like you said, for years.
Yeah, nothing new.
Guys, the car wasn't there for 6 weeks.
Wasn't there for 6 weeks.
Next. Also, stop saying detritus. It's grass.
It's just a blade of grass. Come for me, Reddit. I don't care.
So we're back to the friends now, and we see Aisha Pittman. And here's the thing that I've always wondered about.
What?
All of these people who have known Adnan all of his life, none of them went to any of the court dates or followed the trial seemingly at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because Aisha Pittman is saying, like, look, I've thought that Adnan was a murderer for 20 years.
Right.
So I'm open to new information, but, like, it's a lot for me to process right now.
Right. But Krista, on the other hand...
Yeah. Krista and Adnan seem to have stayed very close.
Yeah, I mean, like, consistently in touch this whole time, and she's been saving, like, all of these letters, and they've been friends, and she's been on his side from the beginning.
She shows us this card that he made from jail for Krista's little son.
Yeah, it's
so
really
cute.
sweet.
He, like, handmade this card for my son. And the front of it says, I thought you could use a, and then you open it up, a big hug. And he cited, always eat your vegetables. Don't ever believe they'll make you like Bruce Lee.
So here's the thing. We get Adnan on the phone. We get him a lot on the phone in this episode.
Yeah.
And he's trying to, like, check our expectations. Because he's like...
For the average person on the street, all they know are the stories they see on Dateline and Nightline where the person finally gets a new trial. To me, living in here in this world is different. I can name like 5 people that I know who got their cases overturned, they were retried, and they were convicted.
And he's like, it's kind of like I've just been approved for chemotherapy. Like, you have cancer, and now we're going to inject this poison into your body.
Right.
Yay! And he's like, no, it's
I
really
know.
not like that. And then in the middle of all of this, right after, we just get like, bah, 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 like some campaign ad from Thiru.
My name is Thiru Vignaraja, and I'm running for state's attorney against Marilyn Mosby.
He's the best prosecutor the city has ever seen. We need him now more than ever.
We're going to forge the most innovative, transparent, progressive prosecutor's office in the history of the country.
So you guys, Thiru Vignaraja is running for state's attorney. But guess what? This is the best. I love it when you shake your head.
Obsessed.
The best part about this is we get Sarah Dill, his former campaign manager, and she is here to spill the tea.
Because it's like what we're seeing on the screen, right? And then we see someone like with an iPad watching it, and I'm like, who is she? Because at one point, and this campaign ad is so ridiculous, as every campaign ad is, it's like promising the world and rainbows and unicorns and glitter, and it's like, girl, please. And he's like, I'm going to be the most progressive prosecutor in the history of the country. And Sarah Dill just goes, like, sure, Thiru. Okay. Like, she eye rolls and audibly scoffs.
Yeah, it's true.
I probably haven't watched the video since I left the campaign. He's very good about presenting a public persona. If you're going to run as a progressive prosecutor, taking on a case where you have someone who is tried as a juvenile, to say, no, this conviction has to stand without any just concrete hard evidence, I think is troubling.
Also, there's a clip of him like walking into the courtroom, and you see Rabia's Dunkin' Donuts in the background.
Oh, you
Did you catch that? Yeah. I didn't know if she was in it. I hope so. I was like, oh my God, hi, Rabia.
So Rabia says to us, here's Thiru's backstory. He used to work in the district attorney's office. So when he was originally prosecuting Adnan's case, it made sense. Like, he was assigned to the case or whatever. But then Thiru went into private practice and continues prosecuting Adnan's case pro bono. I mean, everybody in this documentary will tell you it's completely unheard of.
Except if you're Kathleen Zellner. You go into private practice and help people pro bono. But if you're on the right side of history,
I was going to say, like, for a defense attorney, that makes a ton of sense.
Right, and back to what Amy Berg is saying is like, girl, can you just admit this is personal? But why is it personal? It makes no sense. Like, it is very weird for him to be so aggressive and going against everything he's saying publicly to win a campaign.
Except for we get the round table of everybody saying, like, he's running for a statewide office.
Right.
He's doing this for the publicity.
When he agreed to take the case, he had already made the decision that he was going to be running for office. I think he has his eyes on greater political ambitions. It's not about the law. It's not about justice. It's about making a name for himself.
Again, we're doing Making a Murderer at the same time.
Right.
And it's always a shock to my system that everybody in the world thinks Stephen Avery is innocent, but everybody in that little town in Manitowoc thinks that he's guilty still.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, like, how is it helping Thiru in Maryland to be prosecuting Adnan? Like, why is that good PR for him?
I don't know.
Do the people of Maryland think that he's guilty?
I don't know.
Did you listen to Serial?
Yeah.
Did you listen to Undisclosed?
And if you didn't, shame.
So then, cut to, March 29th, 2018. Good news, you guys.
Yeah.
The Court of Special Appeals upholds the decision to vacate the conviction. Like, this is great news for Adnan.
Only took them 9 months to decide. Right. I hate everything.
I know.
Just a mere 9 months.
I know.
All they had to do was read a couple files.
I know. They only got 30 minutes of oral arguments. How much do you have to digest?
God. How long does it take to listen to Serial and Undisclosed, honestly? Not 9 months.
No! Just do our coverage. You're going to laugh out of it.
I know.
So the state has 30 days to decide if they're going to appeal to Maryland's highest court. Guess what?
Which, like, obviously
they do. They
whenever the state can appeal,
they're going to appeal.
They're going to. Again, like, I cannot wait for someone in office to be like, you guys, we made a big mistake, but that's the chance to be the hero.
Right.
That's where it gets personal and you, like, are going to fight tirelessly.
Right.
Come on, some state, whoever you are. Stand up, sweetheart.
Yeah, so we're getting everybody's reaction to the opinion because according to Rabia, the opinion was very strongly worded.
Almost advocating for Adnan.
Yeah.
And she's so sweet. She's like, can I just read this part?
I know.
I just want to read my favorite part. She's like, it's so long, but I have a couple favorite parts. Amy, can I read it, please? And I'm like, you let her read. You let her read
Amy?
every page if she wants to.
Amy Elizabeth Berg.
Is that really her middle name? No, it's not.
I have no idea.
I totally fell for it. For a half a second, I was like, no, God damn it.
Actually, can I just read that portion? It says the state's case was weakest when it came to the time it theorized that Syed killed Hae. Wild's own testimony conflicted with the state's timeline of the murder. Moreover, there's no eyewitness testimony, video surveillance, or confession of the actual murder, no forensic evidence linking Syed to the act of strangling Hae or even putting Hae in the trunk of her car. In short, at trial, the state adduced no direct evidence of the exact time that Hae was killed, the location where she was killed, the acts of the killer immediately before and after Hae was strangled, and of course, the identity of the person who killed Hae. It is amazing. To me, that's such strong language.
Here are our options.
Yeah.
If the state decides not to appeal, they will either go straight to trial or offer Adnan a plea deal.
Right. So now we hear Adnan saying on the phone that if he is offered a plea deal, he's going to consider it.
Of course, because at this point, he's been in for so long.
Yeah.
And it really depends on what the deal is.
Now, I think that Adnan is the most realistic of everybody about like
100%.
what the deal would be. But he says this thing about how like he told his mom that he would consider a plea deal, and it like broke her heart.
Yeah.
Which is just, to me, it's like, oh God. I mean, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
after all this,
Right.
to have to hear your son admit to something you know he didn't do.
Right. And he says, he's like, my mom, she's a big believer in fighting. And it just like, it breaks my heart and makes it swell at the same time,
The thing about the Syed family is that they suffer from good people syndrome.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, they just want to see the good in the world.
And so now Justin Brown, the lawyer you're in love with,
Yeah.
says, look, if a plea deal is on the table, it's going to have to be an Alford plea. Because an Alford plea, like, you plead guilty, fine, but you can always maintain your innocence.
Right.
Like, that's in the paperwork.
Yeah.
And then that kind of leads him to like, we've always been a little interested in that DNA testing.
But
I think it's time to give her a whirl. let's throw that DNA test. Let's give her a shot.
This is really important. This is called foreshadowing, you guys.
It's what? Tell me more about the magic of filmmaking and storytelling. Because remember when I thought you didn't know what the word verbatim meant?
And I kept every second of it in. It was
really an honest mistake. I thought you were doing a bit.
But Justin says to us,
we're always interested in DNA testing. There are objects that have not been tested, that were never tested. It's a little tricky, though, because DNA testing could be misleading. It's not disputed that Adnan was in contact with the victim. He's her former boyfriend. They remained friends after the two split up. So, it wouldn't be at all surprising if his DNA were, in her car. So we have been and we will continue to be really careful about DNA testing.
This comes up at some point. I don't know where, so I'm just going to say it here. That woman, Sarah, who was...
Queen Sarah Dill.
Queen Sarah.
Please.
Queen Sarah Dill.
Oh, she descends.
She tells us that, Thea would openly discuss Adnan's case with her. When she found out that there was untested DNA evidence, she said to him, look, there's all this public sentiment on Adnan's side. Why don't you just get the DNA testing done and then be done with it? If it's going to prove his guilt, then just do it.
Right, and then you could be done with it. And it's 12 pieces of DNA, everybody.
Right.
It's 12 things. It's a lot.
So then Thea's like, well, as prosecutors, that's not our job. What Sarah is saying is that, obviously Thea didn't have any confidence that the DNA was going to be a good result for him.
It was going to work in his favor.
Right.
Yeah.
There's every chance that it was going to exonerate Adnan.
Ridiculous.
Right.
I know. I don't want a Sarah. And Sarah's like, girl, I quit. Sarah-shaped hole in the door. I want to know why she quit. I love how it's former campaign manager.
We
and
never
I'm like,
get
what's that story, girl? Over a couple dry, dirty martinis. So we're at May 2018, and it's 2 days before the deadline for the state's next appeal.
So Justin's out for a walk. He runs into the attorney general.
He's out for a walk, out for a stroll, trying to clear his head.
He's so tall, he's just got to get out of the office sometimes.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I ran into Brian Frosch on the street. I've never met him in person. Without going into any detail, there have been some informal talks going on. He assured us that we would be hearing from his office very soon.
So what Justin is saying is that they're going to offer a plea deal because the state knows they're in a bad spot.
Right.
They know they're in a bad position.
Right.
So if they can offer a plea deal, get it done, then everybody, whatever, then it's over.
So they set up a time to have the call in 4 minutes. He's like, 4 o'clock, we're doing it. And I was like, oh shit, well, it is 2 days before the deadline.
Yeah.
Tick tock, let's do this. And he's like, and he kicks Amy Berg out of his office.
He says skedaddle, which I didn't like.
I didn't love it either. I'm glad you didn't like it.
I did not like it.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it, but I'm also cautiously optimistic. They could express a serious desire to resolve the case. Skedaddle. Okay. Give me a little piece.
Okay.
skedaddle. She's a little bunny. It's Amy Berg. Amy Berg, if you call us.
So the phone call ends, and Amy Berg, who is skedaddled out of his office, skedaddles right back in.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin Brown is so deflated.
He went from being like, we're going to have the call in 4 minutes.
I know.
We're going to have the call, to being like, oh.
He looks physically ill.
Yeah.
He's really upset.
He's
like,
sitting down now. He was standing up before, and now he's sitting.
And he's kind of yelling at Amy. He's like, Amy, I can't talk about this too much.
And Amy's like, how many documentaries do you think I've done?
I know!
Who the hell do you think I am, Justin?
Justin goddamn Brown, you beautiful bitch.
You beautiful bastard. But Justin's been through a lot in the last 10 minutes on this phone call.
True.
So I'm gonna cut him a whole lot of slack. How about
It's been
that?
a roller coaster for my sweet baby Justin.
I know. I'm sitting at home like crying into my like water and popcorn. And I'm like, I'm stress eating. This is horrible. And then like we're ripping apart Justin Brown. He's allowed to be a little deflated today.
Because no matter what happens, we know this all has a bad ending.
Right. Well, here's what happened on the phone call.
I can tell you that discussions with the state are ongoing. You know, the two sides have not reached an agreement. And in light of that, the state is, they're going to file their appeal. I think it's due on Tuesday. But yeah, so we as of now, there's no deal.
And this is where we get like the whole concept of time, because Justin's like, look, I think we're gonna win, but like the time is working against us.
Right.
My client is rotting in jail right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it every time.
I know.
Rotting in jail.
I hate it.
I know.
But Justin gets really real. Like he's just like,
It's tough out there, you know? These cases are just so fucking hard to win.
it just jarred me because I was like, it was the first time he ever really got that real and emotional and raw, and like he cursed.
I think that he thought an Alfred plea was on the other end of that phone call. I think he did.
Right. What we get from, because he's not allowed to say anything, Justin, okay, we heard you. Okay, sweetheart. God. It wasn't an Alfred plea. It was a bad offer.
Yes.
It was a bad offer.
And we'll find out what that offer was in a minute. So here's the whole thing. We're back to the state's attorney race. Remember, Thiru Vigneraj is running for state attorney. Ivan Bates is also running for attorney, and the incumbent is Marilyn Mosby. I don't even have to look at my goddamn notes.
Also, this was happening the first time we spoke to Rabia.
Yes.
Because she was saying, I was like, who am I rooting for? Tell me. I'm throwing all my money at this person.
Thiru is running against two other candidates for a state's attorney. There's the incumbent, who's Marilyn Mosby, and she has not ever stated a position on Adnan's case. And then the other opponent in this race is Ivan Bates, and he publicly has stated that he doesn't think there was enough evidence to convict Adnan. So if Ivan Bates wins, that's an exoneration for Adnan. That's not a plea deal. That's not another trial. It's not an acquittal. It's like you're done. We're done with you. But beyond that, he said he would reopen the investigation. That means all those leads that nobody followed up on, all that evidence that might still exist somewhere, I think we could actually find out who killed Hae Min Lee. It's a big deal.
So it would be like all these appeals and the hurry up and wait. It would be over. He'd press a button and it would be done, and Adnan would be home.
Yeah.
That's it.
So we're with Rabia on election night, and she's like refreshing her computer. And at one point, it really looks like Ivan Bates is going to win, and then he doesn't.
Yeah, and Shamim is with Youssef, and the sweet baby, the biggest heart in the world.
Youssef is just this little smush of a human who's just like
talking about looking for the good in everybody.
No, he's
My
all
goodness.
hugs. That kid is just all hugs.
Everyone's like glued to their screens, and then Marilyn wins.
All right, you guys, here we are. TikTok DNA o'clock.
Here we go.
So Justin says with the state filing the second appeal, now is the right time for us to be really looking at the DNA.
Yeah. Makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
So here's what we have for DNA options. Okay. Justin tells us there's a thing called like left fingernail, right fingernail. So it's possible that if Hae was murdered and she scratched or clawed at the attacker, that there would be DNA maybe under her fingernails.
Of course.
There were body swabs, like a basic rape kit that would be done on any body.
Mm-hmm. Pubic hair,
all of that. And then there was a rope that was found near Hae's body.
18 inches from the body. Did you know it was that close?
Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, I mean somewhere in my brain. The point is these have all been available for DNA testing, and the testing's never been done.
Right. This is what Thiru's like, nah, I'm good.
The reason Thiru would never want this to be tested is because if there's DNA under the fingernails and it's not Adnan's, then
it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Of course he doesn't want this stuff tested.
Right.
And then refresher, he also tells us, he reminds us that there are 2 fingerprints found on the back of the mirror of Hae's car.
Right.
The rear view mirror.
As if someone was adjusting it.
Right. So the idea is that whoever's fingerprints those are could be the last person to drive the car, the person who put the car where it was found.
Right.
And we know that the fingerprints aren't Adnan's, they're not Jay's, they're not Hae's, but they were never tested against anybody else.
Right.
And Justin says,
if the detectives were really open-minded, you would think they would have tested that stuff. But they had it in their mind that Syed had done this, and they set out to prove that.
So now we meet. Is everybody ready?
Oh my
sit
God.
down.
Everyone sit down. Sit the hell down.
And open a window.
Yeah, get a cocktail.
Ugh. Dr. Queen, Your Excellency, Jen Gorniak. She's a forensic pathologist / badass.
You know that she's
not to be fucked with.
Not to be fucked with. You know she's one of those people who has an email signature that takes up half the page.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like every letter of the alphabet rearranged.
Right. And she's the chief medical examiner in Atlanta. And she's like, I consider myself a death detective.
I know. I actually immediately was like, who's going to play her on the TV show?
Death detective. Jen Gorniak is playing herself.
Only if Vivica A. Fox is not available.
Yeah, totally. So she basically comes in to look at all the forensic information, and she does this thing where, bear with me, she comes to conclusions based on science.
Wait, what?
I know. It sounds crazy. It sounds nuts. But this is the thing that happens in cases, you guys. Sometimes they rely on science.
Jen Gorniak, you genius.
I know.
So basically, like the private eyes, who, frankly, I'm losing interest in these guys, but whatever.
They lost me at the grass.
They lost me at the grass.
I was so here for them. I was so ready to just have my mind blown. They lost me.
Yeah, they're kind of duds. But
real drips.
Here's what they ask her. They're like, what can you tell us based on like what you saw? And she says, like, you know, in her estimation, the cause of death was strangulation. The manner was homicide. And then we get into this whole thing about like what you would expect to see. Remember, the state's theory is that Hae was murdered in the car, strangled by Adnan in the car.
Would you expect to see anything else in the medical examiner's report to support this thesis?
Meaning that you were strangled in the car and there was a struggle.
Correct.
Yes, I would. Especially in that, I'm just picturing a sedan and someone fighting for their life, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So what's there? You have the dash, you have the window, you might see bruises or contusions on the arm.
You see, like, on the autopsy, like, it says, like, extremities show no evidence of fractures, lacerations.
No broken fingernails.
No broken fingernails, nothing.
Right, so basically what they're doing is they're going through what the state said, and then Jen, using her brains and degree and, science, either confirms it or debunks it.
Right, and then they start talking about lividity. Lividity is, like, the big thing that everyone always comes back to. In the most staged way ever, he's like, what's lividity again?
Lividity is the settling of the blood after you die, and so depending on the position, it's going to go towards the dependent areas. So if you're on your back, it's going to shift towards your back. It's where it's going to settle.
So gravity's going to pull it down.
Correct.
And then they show an autopsy photo of Hae where she has these two triangles in the blood patterns on her back.
They're calling them the double diamonds.
Yeah.
So you can see like this double diamond shaped mark on her shoulder. This is lividity around it, right? Something had to be pushed against her and her being face down.
It would take 8 to 12 hours for those patterns to actually become fixed.
Correct.
The point of this whole thing is to say that the state's theory of the case is that Hae was dead at 2:30, buried at 7:30. There's no way that could be true just based on lividity, because it takes like 12 hours for the blood to settle,
right?
And then another several hours of something being placed on her back to make those double diamond shapes happen.
And Robbie has been talking about the lividity and these double diamonds forever. The point is that the state's timeline that Hae was buried at 7:30 p.m., that's out.
Yeah, it's out.
That's out. So now the private investigators go from Dr. Jen, and in my mind, they're like, next, and Justin Brown walks in. Right. Which is probably not what happened. But in my mind, they're just like, and now we'll see who's next. Justin Brown?
Here's the thing. When I got to this point in the documentary, I was like, okay, we're back with the PIs. They've re-investigated this case. They are going to tell us all the shit they learned. They literally say to Justin Brown,
we have more questions for you than you have for us, probably.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm like, so it's the grass all over again. Is that what you're saying? It's the grass all over again?
I can't have my heart broken again like this, boys.
No.
Tyler.
The thing is, they, I'm sure, are excellent at their jobs.
I'm sure. But something happened. I'm sorry, but like they didn't excite me in this series. Here is like the information that they have for Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're saying the people that we can't rule out are Alonzo Sellers, a.k.a. Mr. S, the Streaker.
Right.
And Don Kleindienst. We'll get to both of them in a couple of different ways. But remember the double diamonds?
Yeah.
So they tell us that the double diamonds could be caused from a thing that people who work with cement use.
There has been some suggestion that those impressions were made by what's called a concrete shoe. And this is a tool that's put on the bottom of a grinder, which you can grind up concrete. But the reason this is interesting is that we know that Alonzo Sellers worked in concrete for years and years and years and years.
Then the investigators tell us that they tracked him down. Boys, this is the kind of stuff I was expecting.
Right.
So we actually see video of Alonzo Sellers mowing his lawn.
Right.
Refuses to talk to them, like won't sit for an interview, and they realize that he lives like minutes from Woodlawn High School.
Like 5 minutes.
Where Hae was last seen.
They were just like, oh, wait, there's the high school, and there's Alonzo.
Yeah. So Alonzo Sellers is one of their suspects. The other suspect is Don Kleindenst.
Don is, just a reminder, Hae's boyfriend when she went missing and murdered.
And Debbie, who was going to have like a weird relationship with Don a few weeks later, tells us that when she was the last person to see Hae alive, Hae was going to pick up her cousin and then was going to meet Don. So Don was, you guys, there are so many suspicious things about Don. Just for example, Hae was supposedly going to see him when she left school.
Right.
When Hae went missing, he never tried to call or page her.
Right.
When he found out that the police had called his house looking for Hae at 7 o'clock at night, he didn't call them back until 1 o'clock in the morning.
It's a long time, and he has no alibi for that time.
No alibi for that time.
And real quick, police never really investigated him. They never investigated him at all. They waited months before they talked to Don.
And honestly, Rabia, not in this documentary, but like in life, has said to me and to anybody who will listen, it's not Don's fault that the police didn't investigate him. Like the reason that Don is being looked into so closely now is because he wasn't properly looked into at the time.
Right. And he won't talk now.
And he won't talk now, which, Don, it makes you look so guilty, girl.
It makes you look horrible.
Stephanie, like sit down for an interview.
I know.
So they got Don's like clock in, clock out records from LensCrafters.
Yeah.
Whoever prepared the record went to pains to like point out that Don's mother was his manager and his corroborator for his alibi. But then they tracked down this one guy who's worked at LensCrafters for like 32 years.
Tom Precht.
And Tom Precht, they're interviewing him via Skype. This whole thing is so absurd.
But then there's a shot like with Tom in his house looking at Skype. So they filmed him like every which way you could.
Exactly.
You guys, we got to get eyes on Tom Precht. Get everybody. No, money is no object. We got to get Tom Precht.
On Wednesday, we see that Don is not scheduled to work in the lab, but we do see time entries for him on his time card showing that he punched in at 9:02 in the morning.
So Tom tells us,
only reason I can imagine he was called in is if Charles had called out sick. Charles Kirby was the lab manager of the Hunt Valley store.
Listen, this guy's worked at LensCrafters for 32 years. He remembers everybody's name.
Everyone's name. And he has all the information, that spreadsheet. He's like, hey, Queen KZ, you want to see a spreadsheet? I got one for you.
Something tells me that Precht doesn't have a whole lot going on in his personal life.
No. But he's willing to help.
Yeah. But so then the PIs are like, wait, no, we know Charlie did work that day.
And in fact, we have Charles's time card for that week. He was working on Wednesday and not out sick.
There's no reason I can imagine that there was two of them there on a Wednesday. It just doesn't make any sense.
Don and Charlie were both managers, and they're saying, like, there's no reason that there would have been two managers there on a Wednesday.
Right.
Now, listen, I'm fully in the camp of, like, Don looks super suspicious. His alibi for that day looks super suspicious. Like, as somebody who has scheduled people for things, as somebody who has been scheduled for things, you can't look back now and say it doesn't make any sense that you would schedule two managers for a Wednesday. Like, there is any number of reasons why you might schedule two managers for a shift 20 years ago that you're not going to remember today. You know? That's not compelling evidence to me.
But there's a lot with this time card thing.
Yeah, the time card thing is crazy.
Is there a way to create a phantom shift, so to speak, without leaving a trace?
If you were doing it in real time, you could do it. If you had his password, you could have been doing that.
Then they also tracked down a guy who only wants to be referred to as SH, another employee from LensCrafters who worked with Don at the time.
Super hot.
Right.
Ellipsis.
I love that SH is like, yeah, I knew Don at work. I would never have hung out with him outside of work.
No, he's like, no.
They were trying to track this guy down for 3 years. And apparently, like, just last week, the guy was like, okay, I'll talk.
All right, fine.
Right. He's like, I remember clear as day when Don was telling me that his girlfriend went missing.
I remember as clear as day. Like, his hands had scratch marks and bandages going around. Up towards his breast, off the scratches were more down towards his knuckles. He just said that it was something from work on his car or something.
He had, like, scratches all up and down his arms.
And bandages on his hands.
Arms covered in bandages. Don, it doesn't look good, girl.
And the thing is, the police spoke to Don weeks after Hae went missing, so everything would have been healed up. So there's no record of if this is true or not.
Right, exactly.
So the point is, it's like another womp womp. Like, there's no direct evidence connected to Don. The grass was meaningless. Nothing matters.
Exactly.
I hate everybody.
So the PI say to Justin, in a very staged conversation.
Yes, very staged. I love you, Amy, but very staged.
Like, you can basically see them reading the script. Why was there no DNA testing?
Yeah, tell me, can you just, like, define DNA matching again? What's that all about? You're private investigators.
So Justin is saying that, like, we didn't have any control over that. That was all controlled by the state. They decided not to do DNA testing. But, bombshell, the DNA testing has been done.
I'm happy to address this. There were 12 samples that were tested for DNA. Adnan's DNA was not found in the fingernails, wasn't found on any sample taken from inside of the car, wasn't found on any sample from Hae's body. Adnan's DNA was not found anywhere.
There's this confusing moment where the private investigator says, like, not only was Adnan's DNA not present, but nobody's DNA was present. And it's this weird thing where Justin agrees or doesn't, depending on how you interpret the sentence. I'm confused about what that means, but what we know for sure is that Adnan's DNA was not present. So Justin tells us about a rope that was found 18 inches from Hae's body.
There's something called longer wire and shorter wire. I think those are pieces of what were described as ropes that were found very close, I think within like 18 inches of where the body was. There was a DNA profile pulled from that. But whoever that profile belongs to, they're not in the system.
And so basically, the PIs are now saying, like, look, if our two suspects are Alonzo Sellers and Don Kleindienst,
right,
they're not in the system. So when it says that they've run this DNA through the system and it didn't get any hits, including Don, including Alonzo Sellers, there's no reason for Don's DNA to be in the system. And there's not necessarily any reason for Alonzo Sellers' DNA to be in the system.
Right, like he'd been arrested, but they talk about, like, maybe they just took his prints. Like,
right,
he was just streaking and peeing everywhere. Like, we don't have to take DNA for that.
And then again, the fingerprints come back up. You know, remember the two fingerprints that were found on the back of the mirror?
Of course.
Of the car?
Yeah.
Again, they were never run against anybody other than Adnan, Jay, and Hae. So we don't know. Like, it makes sense that Alonzo Sellers' prints would be in the system. Just run them. See if they're there.
Yeah.
Probably Don's aren't in the system unless he's been arrested for something. We have no idea.
Right.
Basically, there's a whole lot of inconclusion here, but the one big thing, and I need to credit Rebecca Lavoie for being the person that point so much of this DNA stuff out to me, and the big red flag here. The big shining pride flag.
Yeah.
Is that, forget for a second about other people's DNA and trying to figure out who the murderer is.
Sure.
There's none of Adnan's DNA.
Of
which
course.
means that Adnan was not the murderer.
Right.
He couldn't have been.
Yes, that's very clear.
That's huge.
Yeah, but Justin's not like, hey, everybody,
right,
here she is, boys. Here's the bombshell. He's just like, what day is it? I haven't slept. The point is that his DNA isn't there. Who doesn't know that at this point? I don't.
Right. And honestly, Justin doesn't care about pleasing the public. He just needs to get this in front of a goddamn judge.
He just needs to get his client out of prison.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Here's the info on the plea deal, you guys. The state came to Justin and Adnan with a plea deal because they knew they were in a weak position. They thought that Adnan was going to win this appeal, that his conviction would remain vacated and he'd get a new trial. Like, if they were to go to trial again, if that had happened, they have no argument. They have no J. They know the DNA evidence is not on their side. So they went to Adnan with a plea deal, with this shitty plea deal.
They should have made a better deal.
I know. They wanted Adnan to plead guilty.
No Alfred plea.
No Alfred plea. Spend another 4 years in jail.
And Adnan's like, I loved this audio of him because, like you're saying, he's so like calm and positive and just like the realist here.
It's just what they're offering is just so bad, you know, it's so unreasonable. They're going to want me to stand in court and say, listen, I did it. I lied to my mom and dad. I lied to Sarah Koenig. I lied to Rabia. I lied to Amy Berg. When I was a kid, they threatened to take away my future, to take me away from my family, take away the opportunity I would have to go to school or get married and have kids, just to have my freedom, you know, and they made good on that threat. Now it's a lot different. You know this because I don't really have anything they can take away from me anymore.
You know, that audio of Adnan was recorded before he lost.
Right.
So he thinks he's going to win. Justin thinks he's going to. We all think he's going to win.
Right.
And I had dinner with Rabia and I asked her, like, if they were to offer that plea deal again now, do you think he'd take it? And she said, I don't know. But probably not.
Probably not. Well, he says, he goes, look, I'd be exchanging one prison for another.
Right.
Look, so then I'd be out there as the guy who lied. And no, you know, it's just like, in this situation, it's always going to be some kind of a prison.
Yeah.
Because when he gets out, there are always going to be people, naysayers and whatever. There's always going to be something. So wouldn't it be great if he could get out knowing that he didn't plead guilty? Of course.
100%. And so you guys, we're at the end, like we get this brutally sad on-screen text.
Shamim ends up telling Adnan about her illness.
Yeah. And, you know, of course, they like remain committed to like overturning his conviction and, you know, her health and all of that.
We didn't need any clarity on that. We knew that like they were going to stay strong and everything. Yeah. And 2019 marked his 20th year in prison. And then on March 8th, 2019, the Court of Appeals issued their ruling, and the 7-judge panel ruled 4-3 to reverse both lower court decisions and deny Adnan a new trial.
You guys, this was, I mean, we've been talking about it since day one, but this was so unexpected. And it came right before the first episode of the series. And look, I've talked to Rabia extensively about their options. They are exploring all of their options.
And Justin Brown, his statement was, we refuse to give up on Adnan. And this episode ends, the last note of it is Hae Min Lee. And there's that high school photo of her that we all know. And it says, if she were alive today, Hae Min Lee would be 38 years old.
Oh, you guys, thank you for coming on this journey with us. We will keep you posted. Anything that we learn that we are allowed to share with you, we will absolutely share with you.
100%.
You guys, come see us live in June.
Yes.
I want to say it again. Like, our tickets for our June Pride show are selling really fast. So if you want to come, get your tickets now. Go to the See Us Live page on our website, where you can also find information about seeing us at PodX and CrimeCon. Get a discount on those tickets. And come see us in June. We got our drag queens. We're doing Stonewall on the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. We're doing the documentary about Stonewall.
It's gonna get crazy.
It's gonna be so bonkers. I can't. I'm gonna sob. I'm gonna be crazy that day. You guys, Patreon. Don't forget to check out the Patreon if you want more of us. And who can blame you?
I mean,
get our episode by episode coverage of Serial, The Staircase, Making a Murderer, The Jinx. All of our mini episodes, our extended outtakes, our original bonus episodes.
Yeah, and just fun interviews and sometimes just random stories. Very early on, we had like the story of how we met. I think,
That's
or like
right.
how we became friends.
Oh,
All just
also,
fun stuff.
Our live show videos, both live show videos, are up there.
Yes, we always forget to mention
I know,
that.
it's true. It's all commercial free. Every week you get a new episode.
Yeah.
We're almost done with Making a Murderer. You guys, let's announce it. The next thing we're doing on Patreon is going to be Lorena.
Look, I have things to say.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
$5 a month, you get all of that stuff, plus a new bonus episode every week. For $10, you get all of that, and you get these episodes ad-free.
Yep.
Coming up next, you guys, girl, tell them what we're doing.
Studio 54. It's on Netflix. It is gay, and like full of like drugs and tax fraud. It's gonna be a hoot and a half.
You guys, we see all your suggestions. Keep them coming. We're doing most of them.
Yeah.
So keep your suggestions coming, however you want to get them to us.
Sure.
Girl, how can they find us?
Well, thanks for asking. Thought you'd never ask. TrueCrimeObsessed.com is our beautiful, gorgeous website. You get episodes, you get promo codes, you get merch, you get live show tickets, you get everything.
Totally.
And we are at True Crime Obsessed on the Twitter, at True Crime Obsessed Podcast on the Insta.
Follow us on the Insta, you guys. I'm crazy with the Insta story.
I know. I pop in every once in a while, and then I feel like I'm crashing a party every time I do. I'm always like, hi, it's
Always
me.
welcome.
Thanks.
Where can they find you?
At Jillian with a G on all the things.
I'm at Patrick Hines _ on the Instagram, at Patrick Hines on the Twitter. I don't know what the palate cleanser is going to be. We'll figure it out when we get there.
You know, it's great every time. Just remember to put it in the show notes.
I know. I remembered last time.
Okay.
All right, love you guys.
Love you. Thank you.
Bye.
When you walk through those blacked out doors, you're in another world.
Andy Warhol, Calvin Klein,
Elizabeth Taylor,
Mick Jagger. It was hot, sexy.
It's like an adult amusement park. It is so preposterous. We both came from Brooklyn.
They had this understanding that they were getting out and they were going to do something big together.
We wanted the ultimate nightclub.
Beautiful models, celebrities with gay men, transgenders, and it all started blending.
A world of fantasy that absolutely exploded.
Sex was in the air. There were mattresses in the basement. The amount of drugs was profound.
Everyone felt like they had to be there.
The people started to get angrier because they couldn't get in.
You can't have this much popularity without somebody wanting to take it down.
All of a sudden, the lights went on. The police were there. It was like the reality was in your face.
The basement had bags of cash and drugs. The feds, mafia,
the White House.
They definitely messed with the wrong people. Controversy was like a moth to a flame, and it got even bigger.
A haven for inclusion and acceptance.
I don't think they had any idea that it would be important in our culture and the history of what was going on all around the world.
This was revolutionary.
Remember Debbie and Don?
Hashtag Debbie and Don.
Remember Debbie and Don?
I do.
Never forget Debbie and Don.
I want to write a musical about it.
Debbie and Don, what the fuck is going on? Is that going to be the big like Act 1 ending number?
Yeah. And then like the big opening number from Act 2 is Spring Break. It's called Spring Break.
Yeah. I want 30% of the royalties.
Spring Break.
Spring Break. You're visiting your sister. Spring Break. This is horrible.
Continued prosecuting Adnan's case pro bono.
Prosecuting.
What'd I say?
Prosecuting.
Did I say prosecuting?
You said prosecuting. Did you not listen to the Crime Junkie Why Adnan is Innocent recap episode? Because they go into the suspicions of the time card like, whoa.
No. I'm saying, my thing is like, they're saying that,
also,
like,
hi, Ashley and Britt. Hey, girls.
I can't handle it.
When was the last time you drove a car?
Very recently.
Oh, okay.
I drive a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, fine. Jeez, sorry. There goes that hilarious bit. Woo! Really sucked the air out of that one.
There's a saying that I learned, passed down through centuries, which translated from the French means sister, please. Girl, you're special, you're rough, yeah, but you're a gem. And if people haven't seen it, well, hey, that's on them. So you got a little baby fat, it ain't no thing, yeah. Look at Twiggy's down with that, it ain't no thing. So shake like jello on the spring. It ain't no thing, yeah. It ain't no
Oh,
thing.
some kids used to tease me and put me through hell. Some people are mean, but most people mean well. It's just their thinking is thinking and a little outdated. Or maybe they're merely uneducated. Got pretty eyes but thunder thighs. It ain't no thing, yeah. I'm daddy's little big surprise. It ain't no thing, yeah. Love who you are and the world will adore you. And the couple that don't, at least they can't ignore you. Now boys, I wanna buy me bling. It ain't no thing. Don't walk away and leave cases unopened. Why you playing deal or no deal?
No deal. And don't you just take little pieces of life. Treat yourself to the 7-course meal. Oh, I've been hating on myself unnecessarily. I'm here to state I'm feeling great, celebrating me. I got a big butt, well so what? It's good as any other. And I think of you as sisters from another mother. Yeah, I got some junk up in my trunk. It ain't no thing. It ain't no thing. Twig thinks I'm sexy, who'd have thought? Let freedom reign. I'm hesitating, time to get off the pot. You can get love long as you love what you got. Gonna French kiss with tongue like I dreamed I do. And not just with my pillow, but with you know. You got the spirit now, girl, gang.
Look at all the joy you bring.
Now I'm gonna end it with the thing. It ain't no thing. No, it ain't. Now you go find that boy and tell him you're free Friday night.
Gosh darn it, I will!
Ooh, language, honey child, please.